Hi there, Jason here from English Raven. Hope you're doing well today. This is tutorial 4 in my Teaching Materials Design Masterclass, and what I'm going to try and show you today is what I call the 1-3 design principle for learning materials. The 1-3 design principle is basically the idea of that we will have a section dedicated to some input of some kind or some key content, and then we'll have 3 applications or activities that extend from that key input. And if you're not really sure what the heck I'm talking about there, well, don't worry, everything will be revealed. So I've got my open document here. I'm using Microsoft Word 2007. As I've said in other tutorials, if you're using a different version, you may need to work with your menus a little bit, do some different things with your menus, but the basic principles I hope will come across. I've got my blank document here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my layout option, page layout. I'm going to change the orientation to landscape. As I've mentioned in other tutorials, I have a strong preference for landscape these days because it allows me to make something that will look good up on a screen, and I also think it just makes for a better resource in terms of being able to scan left to right across a page rather than up and down. I'll sort of explain that in a little bit. It's one of the principles actually of the 1-3. You could do 1-3 in the portrait mode, the vertical mode, but I think it works better in the landscape mode. Now, this is going to be a very quick review process if you haven't seen tutorial number 1, or you want a quick review of that. I'm going to go very fast, so if you're not sure exactly what it is I'm doing, I suggest you go back and look at tutorial 1. I'm going to start with my header and my footer. I'm going to double click to open up the header and the footer. I'm going to insert a basic square. Okay. Alright, I'm going to go with a bit of a purple theme today, and I'm going to fill that shape. I'm going to drag it off the screen, extend it that way, and that way, and then I'm going to pull it down just a tad, and we're going to get a nice light purple bar there. I'm going to insert my floating text box, okay, just by inserting my square. Adding text. Now I'm not really sure what I'm going to call this because I'm actually setting up a template, so I'm just going to write title here. Okay, I'm going to make that bold. I'm going to use I'll use Kandara for this one, and I'll go to about size 24, maybe a little bit bigger, 26. Okay, and I will choose a purple font for that, and then I will go to my format, go for no fill and for no outline, and then I've got my floating title option here in the header. Okay, I might just pull that up a little bit, and as per the other tutorial as well, now I go back to insert, and I'm going to put in a rounded rectangle over here. Okay, about the same distance away from the edge as the title, and I'm going to make that also a purple color. Now I'm going to insert another text box by going to shapes, and I'm going to, I'll start over here just to get it out there, and what I'm going to do here is write the topic details. Again, we could use this rectangle just for the students to write their name on, but I'm going to set it up in this case for something that will actually indicate the topic. Now, I can always take it away if I don't like that. Okay, again we go and we get rid of the shape fill and the outline. Okay, and then we drag it across on top of that shape that we've already made. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to curve it. I'm just going to make it nice and round so it's nice and smooth looking. And then I'm going to put this over the top of that. Center the text and just use my arrow key on the keyboard just to gradually pull that down. Okay, and that's where I'll put in my topic details for whatever resource it is. So we've made our header. Now I copy and paste this background shape, and I pull it down to the footer, and I change the fill color by going to Format, and I change that shape fill to a gray color. Okay, now I'm going to insert another text box. You might just like to play ahead in the video if you would rather skip this part, if it's all very clear to you how to do this part based on tutorial number 1. I'm putting in another text box here, adding text, and remember, it's all about taking ownership of your material, indicating that you made it, that it's yours. In this case, I'm going to write content and design Jason Renshaw, and then I'll put my blog address in. Jason Renshaw, .typepad.com. Okay, now I'll do this in Kandara as well, just for a bit of consistency. I'll change that to Kandara and bold it a little bit. And I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. I'm going to make this white. I'm going to make the text white. I'm going to then, for this text box, get rid of the fill so it's transparent, and take away the outline. And then I'm just going to pull that box down into my footer, and I'm going to center it. Well, actually, I'll pull it off to the side here, and basically I'm going to now click on the edge of that box and use my arrow keys just to move it over so that it's in line with that edge of that box up there. Again, I'm just reviewing here some of the things I've already shown you how to do in a previous tutorial, tutorial 1. Okay, so I now have my header and footer set up, my basics. Now we're still in the header and footer, and this is where I'm going to do this. If you're just working with one page or one general style of material that you want to use consistently, you could do this in the background, in the header and footer. If you are going to do something very different on each page, what I'm about to show you, you might like to actually do that in your main screen by clicking in the middle and then doing this. I'm going to do it in the header and footer just so I can show you how that works. Alright, now it's the 1-3 rule, so we want this half here that I'm swirling around now, that's going to be our 1. That's going to be our main input, our main sort of area where content is delivered and presented. Over here on the right hand side of the general spread here, we're going to have our 3, and that is our 3 activities. Now it could be 2, it could be just 1, but I find 3 is a nice number for a bit of variety. And it just this is actually interesting because by setting up your template, in some ways you actually sort of dictate to yourself how much and what kind of content you're going to deliver. And some people might argue, but that's backwards. The content should all come first, and then you work out how the design will fit that. But that's interesting. I actually find it can be actually helpful to let the design guide my content. There might be some people out there who really disagree with that, but it's just the principle of I want to make sure there's a bit of variety, and I want to be able to control in advance how much detail there's going to be within that variety. I'll explain a little bit more as I go. We're in our background here. The 1-3 rule is best set up by going to Insert, and this is really simple, going to Shapes, choosing the square, excuse me, and just whacking it in the middle like that to start with. Now, excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. I'm going to go with a a pretty light grey. Pretty light grey for now. Oh, we'll make, yeah, a light grey like that. Okay. Now, what I want is I don't want that black line to appear, so I'm going to get rid of the shape outline. Okay, so that it's all grey. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the right hand side off to the edge there, and I'm going to pull the left hand side off the edge. And look, that's as simple as it is. Basically, we're set up to do the 1-3 now. What I can do now is I can go back to my main page. I can insert something here, which is going to be my main input, and I've already got, well, I'll show you what I mean by that. If I put in something like this, okay, this is just a rounded rectangle. If I put that in and go with my purple theme and change the shape fill to well, we don't want it to be that bright yellow, do we? We want I'm going to choose a very light pale yellow. Okay, now as you can see, what I could then do is actually put in a dialogue or some text or something here in this box here, and then I could actually have 3 little applications that go with that. So it might be a couple of comprehension questions, a bit of vocabulary, and then a writing extension or something like that. If this was a dialogue, I might start with some comprehension questions up here. I might put in some sentence practice or pronunciation practice in this box, and then here I might have a variety of extension suggestions on, getting the learners to go and do something of their own. But what I mentioned before about the design sort of guiding the content is that by having even boxes here, it means that I'm not going to end up it's giving me a reminder that I don't want to spend too much of my content just dealing with comprehension. Okay, I've got 3 things I'd like to do, and that's good for the learners to have a bit of variety in what's being presented on the page and the sorts of things they're going to learn and do. But it's just giving me that reminder that I need to limit myself in terms of how much I put in each of those 3 activities. And what I've found is that creates a nice balance. A balance of our input, a balance of activities, and a balance of how much time and detail within those activities. Anyway, it's an interesting issue, the idea of the design guiding the content and the amount of content. Now, that's the very, very simple sort of way of doing the 1-3. You could make it a little bit more stylish than that. I'll go back into my header, and this box here, this is a way to make it a little bit more stylish, okay? And I'll show you how to do that. Go to your bottom box there and just gently drag it down, drag it down, drag it down until it goes, whoa, over the top of that. What are we going to do? Oh no. Okay. If you go back to your format and you look for the send to back option, send it to the back, watch what happens. Okay, it actually layers behind that footer. Okay. In other versions of Microsoft Word, I think you can actually get it here just by right-clicking on that box, going to Format Shape, going to Layout, and then choosing Behind Text. Okay. If you choose that option, it also layers it behind that. So if you don't have this convenient send to back option in your menu, if you're using a different version of Word, just remember to right click and go to Format Auto Shape and to choose that behind text option, and that will send it behind whatever else is on the page there. So you might be thinking, what is this guy doing? Because now we don't have 1-3, we've got 1-2. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a curved rectangle like this. I'm going to go to the shape outline and I'm going to turn that white. Okay, so now it's all white, and what we can do is we can move this across, roughly speaking, to the middle. Okay, and then we can drag it right off the edge there, and then we can pull it down, 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 like that. Okay, and then, well, look, we've gone over the top again, haven't we? Send it to the back, and look. Okay, because I sent it to the back, it goes behind the footer. And what we've got now is it's just a little bit more stylish. We've got a nice little curve here. You might be thinking, oh my God, what's this guy doing? But you know, I like to make stuff that looks a little nice. Now, if I want to adjust the size of any of these sections, it's just a matter of coming back into my footer and actually just playing with that format. Just by pulling the box down or pushing it up, I can make this section smaller, this section bigger, or roughly equal, which is what I'm going to do there. Now I'll go back into the main frame of my document again, okay, and I'll put in that that input text box with the curved rectangle again to show you what this is going to look like. If I pull that like that, go with purple, go with my pale yellow shape fill, and as you can see now, we've got this really little stylish interface here. We've got enough room to put our input text in here. We've got enough room for 3 activities. We've got this sort of nice little curve bar here that makes it look a little bit suave. Again, as I'm designing those activities though and putting in the material, I might like to go back into my header and footer or my background, and again I can just change it. I can just adjust how much space is allocated there according to the content. So it's not always about only writing as much content as the design allows. You want to be able to have a design that is flexible enough for you to move it around. You might even like to pull this over so that if you have a fair amount of input, you can always bring that across, and there's just a narrower band there, but I try to work with that sort of 50-50 rule. So I'm going back into the header and footer and dragging that across to about there. Okay, so that's the basic design there. Now I'll just give you another quick review of how to make your pretty buttons. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of that to start with. Now I'm not in the background anymore, I'm in the front layer of my document. You double click to go into your header and footer, go back to the middle and double click to get out of that and to be on the main page of your document. If I enter down, you can see this is going to be a consistent format. It's going to appear on the background of every page. It looks faded here, so you might want to look at your print preview just to see what that's going to look like in full color. It's going to look like that. Now remember, I tend to stick to dark and light and grays for my background, header and footer, because I don't want it to get too busy and too bright, because what I'm going to do is be a little bit brighter with the actual content that I put on here. So the background should be subtle. Now I'm going to show you, as I said, how to make those those nice buttons. Now again, it's just going back to your insert and your shapes. It's making a big circle, something like that. Choosing a color. I'm going to go with, what color shall I use for the buttons today? Well, I'll go with purple just to be consistent, shall I? I'll go with a purple color. It's pretty bright. I'll go with a slightly more subtle version today. And go back to your shape fill and go to gradient, and you choose this one. Okay, you choose the one that puts the shadow in the bottom right hand corner. Alright, now we want to get rid of our edge. We want the edge to be basically the same color as the circle. And now we go back to home, we copy that, we paste it. Okay, we want to make this one a bit smaller, and we want to, go back to format, go to the shape fill, go to the gradient, and put the shadow in the opposite corner. The first one was that, now we're going to put it here. Okay, now we want this circle, this is looking a bit more like an egg at the moment, so we pull that down, pull it across, so it's about a circle, and then we shift and highlight both of them. So to show you how I did that, click on one circle, hold your shift key down, click on the other circle, Okay, now I'm just going to align these and center them. So I'll align them center and align them middle, and now it's perfectly in place. I click on one, hold the shift key down, click on the other one, right click, choose the grouping option and group that shape, and then shrink it. Okay, now we want to get a closer look at that button now. So what we need to do is hold our control button down and just scroll forward with your mouse so that you get that bigger version. Now I've already made a mistake here. Okay, I forgot to make the outlines a quarter. Okay, again, what I did there was I went to shape outline, weight, and then chose the thinnest possible option. Otherwise it looks too clunky and thick. Now we're nice and close up to our button here. I'm going to insert a text box roughly over the top of that. I'm going to right click and add text. I'm going to center it. I'm going to write A. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to choose Kandara as my font. I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to make it about 14. We can always change that later. Go back to your text box, click on the edge, get rid of the fill, get rid of the outline. Okay, now I can probably make this a little bit bigger, so I'll go to 16. Yes, that's looking a bit better. Now I've got the letter highlighted. That's just a matter of dragging your mouse over until you get a shade over the top and highlighting it. Right click, choose font, and engrave it. Engrave. And you get that nice look there. And click on your box on the edge and use your arrow key just to center that. Okay? Now, click back on your circle, hold your shift key down, click on the letter, and you get all the circles and boxes showing you all the things that have been formatted in there. Go to any one of these squares or circles, hover over it and right click, go to grouping and group. Okay, so that's how we make our button. Now I'm just going back out, holding the control key down and scrolling back, and we've got a nice purple sequence marker that can be moved anywhere just by holding it down and dragging it around the page. Okay. Now the reason I'm showing you this is because now what we can do is, alright, we can insert our input box again by choosing the curved rectangle and dragging it onto the page, making those curves a little less severe, lining it up and choosing the purple option, but going to shape fill and actually making that fill yellow. Just pull it up a little bit there, pull it down a little bit here. You know, we can resize this. We might only use that much text, or we might only use, say, this much text. Okay. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to, we can make this however big we like. I'm going to pull this sequence marker down to about here. Now I'm going to copy it. Now remember, when you copy and paste your sequence marker, you don't want to paste it while you've got it highlighted. You need to click out by clicking just somewhere on your document and then pressing paste. Okay, otherwise it will appear inside it. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put my A there, change that to B. Okay, now I'm going to highlight that, copy, click off it and paste. Click on it and drag it into, say, here. Now I might just press paste again and pull this one down to, say, here. And this will be B, this will be C, and this will be D. Okay. Okay, so that's what I mean by the 1-3 rule. We've got 1, we've got our input area, we've got B, C, and D, or 1, 2, 3, as in 3 applications that will be used to extend that main text. Now, the reason I've pulled this down like that is because I always like to have a picture of some sort. I like to have some sort of picture that goes with the document. So I'm just going to put one in for the moment. I'm going to insert picture, and I'm going to choose a picture that I've used recently. Let's see. There could be any sorts of pictures here. Bear with me. I'll use this one. Okay. It's not a very good picture, sorry. Now, go to, when you've put the picture in, obviously it's going over the top of everything here. Remember, right click on it, go to text wrapping, and put it in front of the text. Just for now, we can change that later. And we just slide that down like that. As I said, it's not the best picture that I could have chosen, but it's just for the purposes of demonstrating it here. Okay, I'm just going to give it a twist. A bit of a twist like that. I'm going to pull it up to about here. Maybe make it a bit smaller. Okay. I could give it a frame. What will I do? I'll choose a frame for it, maybe like that, or like that. It could be any one of these really. I'll choose a simple one. Okay, now we've got a picture sitting there. Now what can I do? It's sticking over the top of this, isn't it? Which is not really what I want. So what I'll do is, when Microsoft Word responds, again, I'm going too quickly for it. As soon as you pull in an image and you're screencasting, it all slows down and gets a bit grumpy. Alright, now that's better. Right, I'm going to right click on this now, and I'm going to go to Format Auto Shape, and I'm going to click on that option again. Okay, that didn't work. There you go. What I'm going to do is go back to my picture, go to Format, send it to the back. And as you see, it pops behind that main input text box. Okay, so now we've got a picture, a box to put in some sort of input, a dialogue or a reading passage or an article, whatever it is, and then we can actually go in and put in our activities here. And that will be what I will do in the next tutorial. I will actually show you how we can then go and actually put this content in using this style of format. But again, remember, one of your options here is, if you, as it turns out with your content, if you need more space in any one of these sections, just go back to your background again. Okay, we might say that we want C to be a little bit less full on. Okay, so we'll make that smaller. Go back to your main document. Okay, it's getting all grumpy with me again. Go back to your main document, and I can just pull this up. I could even have it sitting over the top of that curve there. Alright, but as you can see, we've already made some really good headway to producing a simple but elegant, professional looking document. Another thing I could be doing here is yeah, Microsoft Word's getting rather stroppy with me because I've got this screencasting tool going. I could align these like so. They've already aligned, so I set it up okay. But that's how you can basically set up the 1-3 rule, which is your input area, maybe with a visual if you want, and then 3 activities that extend from that in some way. As I said, in the next tutorial I'll actually come back to this basic style of template, and I'll actually show you how I actually might fill in some information. So we'll be using some actual content in the next tutorial. Thanks for your attention. I hope that's given you an idea of the 1-3 rule, as well as reviewing that idea of your header, your footer. I'll just quickly show you again that when you go for print preview, it looks significantly brighter and better. Don't worry so much, as a final point, don't worry so much if you're worried about this stuff photocopying well. it may not photocopy because it's a rather light shade. But as I said, I'm making stuff that I want to present to the class, and I think most teachers are in that position now, or many teachers are in a position now to actually pull a document up onto a big screen, or to send it to the learners for them to look at and work on. So as long as we're only presenting this in digital format, those colors will appear. But even if we print and photocopy this resource, that gray not appearing is not a big deal. It's not a big issue. So it's mainly for the presentation from the digital point of view. You could go in and make those darker if you want them to appear in your photocopy, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's going to get too blocky and too dark and too stripy. Excuse me. So this is just for your digital format. So thanks for your attention again, and look forward to seeing you in the next teaching materials design masterclass. And I hope you've learned something today.